Hey everybody, I'm Justin with AmericanTrucks.com, and today we're taking a closer look at and installing the Bushwhacker OE style fender flares available for that 2021 and newer F-150 at home. Now, you guys should be checking out the OE styled options from Bushwhacker if you're looking for a premium made in the USA flare to deliver a factory style appearance along with a great fit, easy install, and corresponding lifetime warranty. As far as your features are concerned, well, I would say the main feature here is going to be the fact that you are getting a very subtle factory style low profile flare that is honestly the complete opposite of most of the other flares you're going to find in the category. And what I mean by that is typically a lot of these flares, especially the pocket style options, can be very large and be sometimes looking out of place if you don't have the offset to really fill those things out. Instead, again, these are going to offer a little bit of coverage, in fact just over 1/2 inch off of your factory fenders to better protect the side of your truck from things like dirt or rock chips, while still offering a nice color contrast as well. Now, moving into construction, and you'll find that Bushwhacker does utilize an industrial grade Duraflex 2000 ABS plastic that has been finished in matte black and does get a UV coating baked in to resist any chalking or fading over the years. Now, the flares can be paint matched if you'd like. In fact, I have a different set of Bushwhackers on my 21 F-150. I have the Extend-A-Flare kit. I did paint them Oxford white, and honestly, the quality of the fitment has been completely awesome. Finally, guys, I do want to point out again, these flares from Bushwhacker have been built here in the USA, and again, they are backed by a limited lifetime warranty, just in case you run into any issues. Now, coming in at or around the low $500 price point, the Bushwhacker flares are going to be one of your more expensive options when you're trying to check out OE styled flares here on the site. But you also have to keep in mind the absolute killer quality, the made in the USA construction, drill-free install, and of course that corresponding lifetime warranty. But now let's shift gears and get into the install. And the site is going to call this one a pretty solid 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you a couple of hours to complete from start to finish. But now to give you a better idea of just how this one will go down at home, check out this detailed walkthrough from an AT customer now.
Okay, today we are going to install the Bushwhacker original equipment fender flares for 2021 through 23 F-150 truck, excluding the Raptor model. The tools we need today, we are going to use this little flashlight to look up underneath the wheel well to assist with that. We're going to use this little fastener holder, magnetic, so we don't lose any of the fasteners. We're going to use this wrench. We can also use this manual wrench to tighten the fasteners. I don't like to use the power tools to tighten them up. I like to torque them. We'll need this grease pencil to mark a few places in the fender. We'll need this panel retainer tool. It's assisting to remove the panel retainers. Much easier than bending them with a crowbar. We'll have to drill one little hole in the panel, in the trim panel on the back, not in the metal, into the trim panel only. And we'll need this little stubby screwdriver to get up underneath the panels, and this scissors to cut the edge trim pieces. Finally, this little tool is good for making the final touch to the edge trim when we get all the fenders on. So let's get started first with the front wheel. Okay, the first step is to take out 7 of the original equipment manufacturer fasteners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We don't take this one out. I already marked this to make sure. So here we go, pretty quick. Keep it going. There's out. Then we have to take out this little rock guard. The two fasteners held it together. There's one additional in the back, and it pulls out pretty easy. And there it is. We will not reuse this rock guard. Okay, the next step is that we are going to install this inner piece, the inner piece of the flare into the wheel well. But you want to make sure that the S-clips were all installed in this particular piece. They may not have been in your kit, but they were in my kit. Okay, so to install this inner piece of the fender flare, we are going to use the original equipment screws that came in the vehicle, except for one area, which I checked with Ford. It was not included in the original truck. So what I'm going to do is use a 1/2-inch fastener of my own, and I'm going to place it into the tab on the wheel well for only one of these fasteners on the inner brace of the flare. Okay, to make it a little easier, since the fender liner is attached very securely to the vehicle, I put in just a small scissors jack and put a little pressure on the liner to move it up. And now it makes it easier for me to put in this screw from the top. And that's what it looks like right there. So we're gonna start by putting this inner bracket in. I'm going to start with this one screw and put it in place to make it easier to get the other original equipment fasteners in. And I'm going to put in the other 4. Okay, so now I'm going to just snug them all up a little bit. Before we fit the front flare, we're going to go ahead and add the edge trim to each of the actual flares. We're going to be going around this side. This is the part that makes contact with the truck on each side. So we're going to go through this. We're going to take out a little bit of this two-sided tape, and we'll start right at the end, and we're going to very carefully work this into the entire width of the flare. Going around these corners is the hardest part, which is really not that hard though. Going about a foot at a time seems to be the best way to do it. We want to make sure that we get the edge into the crack on the edge trim. A little bit tricky to get over these contour pieces, but it's a little bit forgiving. So you can kind of move it around as you go. helps if you stretch it a little bit as you go around the corners. Get to the end. Trim it off with the scissors. And then we go back and work it. And then work it a little more. So this makes a real nice seal that goes up against the truck. And we will work that more once we get it on the truck. We're going to dry fit the flare. We're going to hold it up to the vehicle. Exactly where it's going to be. And then we are going to mark this area for the one long Y clip that will hold the vehicle, the flare in place at that point. So I'm going to mark that, take the flare back down, and then we're going to make this, put this clip on that area. Making sure that the hole is, the large hole is facing towards the inside. So that's approximately the area that the one clip will go into. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and fit the flare and fasten it onto the vehicle. We're going to start with the 3 OEM screws, one on the front and the 2 on the back. And then we're going to take the 4 5/8 inch truss screws and fasten them to this inner bracket. So let's get started. We get the 5/8 inch truss screws, and we have to push the flare up and match them up with the holes. This last one in up there. Okay, the front flare is on. All we gotta do is make sure this seal is nicely configured onto the side of the truck, along with all these contours. So that looks pretty good for the front one. Okay, moving on to the back flare installation. The first thing we have to do is take off this rock guard. We're not going to use it again, so we're going to go ahead and just take it off. One more screw in the back. It's held on with a clip and it comes right off. We won't be reusing this again. We will reuse the OEM fasteners. So then we go back to this piece of trim right here. As you can see, it has one fabric fastener on here, but we actually have two places where we need to install the flare. So what we're going to do, there's a hole in the back there. We don't have to drill any holes in the sheet metal, but we're going to have to drill a 1/4 inch hole in this panel. So we're going to mark the place for it. I'm just going to take this push pin and mark the inside of that hole so I can see where it is. And I'm going to go ahead and take out these fasteners. Works real easy with this tool. So this panel pops right out. You can see there's the second hole that the flare will go into. So inside this panel, I marked it with that push pin, but it also has some indentations in there. That's where the 1/4 inch hole has to be drilled, so we can use that additional panel fastener to put it back in, and also to mount the back of the flare. I'm going to go ahead and drill this 1/4 inch hole right in that mark. So that's all the drilling we have to do in the vehicle in this installation. So for the time being, I'll just put this right back on. And I'm going to put those fasteners back in. So we have the hole ready for the flares. So the next step is to fit the flares and put the tabs for the S-clips along the side of the fender. We forgot to mention that when we did the first flare with this edge trim, we did all 4 at the same time since we're in that mode. So they all came out pretty nice and they're ready to put on. So what we're going to do now is dry fit the flare, lining up the fasteners in the front and the back. And then we are going to mark where the S-clips are going to go onto the fender. So one is right here. One is right here, and one is right there. We're going to take it back down. We want to put these on approximately where the mark is, and we want to do it long ways, so we have a little bit of adjustment when we put the flare up and when we get ready to put it on. So we'll put one in there. One in there. And the last one in there. And then we put the S-clips in. With the hole that we'll use the screws in facing out. We'll place these over the top. And then we are going to go ahead and replace the original equipment screws in the bottom. Good to use your head here. There's one. the handle retainment clip goes in the back. So that one's in. This one is started. Let's get the other one started. Hand tight at this point. And then we're going to take the smaller 5/16 inch screws and finish up holding the flare up on the bottom. One. You have to press in on them, that's why they are nice and tight on the top. One started. To adjust the clip a little bit. Looks good right there. Finish tightening these bottoms. Then we have one more pin or fabric retainer to put in where we drilled our own hole in the trim. The last step is to go ahead and work this seal to make sure it's in exactly where we want it to keep for a nice watertight seal, so we don't get a bunch of dirt and junk in there. So I think we got it. We got the two in. Now we're going to go over and put them on the other side, and we'll be done.
So wrapping this one up here, guys, again, if you are looking for a high quality set of factory styled flares to give your truck a little bit more width and a little bit more protection, then be sure to check out these options from Bushwhacker right here at AmericanTrucks.com.